Princess Camila Feng hides behind the identity of a lowly maid, Wren, little bird, dancing for the man who slaughtered her kin. Adrian Murong vows to kill his betrothed, yet falls for her shadow. But love is a trap. While he whispers promises, she sharpens her blade. In this game of hearts, who is the hunter, and who is the prey? Part 1. In the winter of the 18th year of the Tianli era, the barbarians of Westland stormed the Winter Palace in the western capital of the Liang Kingdom. The Emperor of Liang fled in panic with his consorts and his sons and daughters. Even the imperial guards retreated, leaving the unarmed palace servants behind to wait for death. I was one of them. That night, the barbarians held a victory feast in the Winter Palace. Fine wine and rich food. Flickering lamps and rank indulgence. More than 40 of us maids knelt outside the hall in the snow. The wind cut through us as we waited for something worse than death. Everyone else in the Winter Palace had already been killed. Only us young maids were left, save for the barbarian officers to enjoy. Several maids wept silently. We all understood. Falling into the hands of these brutal barbarians meant a fate more terrifying than dying. Then a barbarian officer strode up and barked, "Who can dance?" The maids huddled together in fear. No one answered. "Who can dance?" he shouted louder. "Aren't Liang women good at dancing? If no one dances, you die." "I can," I said, lifting my head. A little. His leering eyes swept over me twice. "Come here, dance for our prince." Inside the hall lay several headless bodies. Blood still streamed from them. From their clothing, they looked like Liang ministers. I forced myself to pretend I hadn't seen. When the music began, I flicked my long sleeves and danced hallside delight. My brother once praised my dancing, said it was too enchanting. Like an immortal in a painting, he'd said, or a demon that walked out of the mountains. The Westland prince narrowed his hazel, drunken eyes and stared at me in silence. A long saber rested by his hand, slick with blood. I remembered the stories about him. Cruel, violent, addicted to killing. Each time he took a city, he slaughtered it for 3 days. Wherever he went, nothing grew. And the ones he killed most were the Feng imperial clan. No one from the Feng family who fell into his hands ever survived past 3 meals. My steps faltered as those horrors flashed through my mind. I caught my own hem and went down in an ugly sprawl. It's over, I thought. He'll cut me down. But he leaned forward and caught me himself. I smelled the stench of blood on him. He seized my hand, stepped past the headless corpses, and crossed the floor soaked in blood, leading me into the inner chamber. Jade Rest Hall. The barbarian prince lounged against the bed. He'd already shed his dark outer robe and wore only a white inner garment. I stood before him, fists clenched in my skirt. "That dance was beautiful," he said softly, "nothing like a mad butcher. Are Liang women all as pretty as you?" "I'm nothing special. How old are you?" I answered in a small voice, 15. "What's your name?" "Wren." "Wren? That's a strange name. When my mother carried me, she had nothing to eat. I was born no bigger than a little bird, so she called me Wren." "So pitiful." He ruffled my hair. "Blow out the lamp and go." I could hardly believe what I'd heard. Go? He was letting me go? Afraid he'd change his mind, I backed away at once. I clutched my skirt and ran out of Jade Rest Hall. Only when I stood in the snow and looked back at the window glowing warm yellow did I remember. I'd forgotten to blow out the lamp for him. More than 40 maids were divided up by the barbarian officers. Many were dragged straight to the army camp. For now, my fate seemed the least terrible. Prince-Adrian Murong kept me at his side as a servant. He didn't stay in the Winter Palace during the day. He trained troops outside the city. That left me idle in Jade Rest Hall, with nothing to do. I wanted to run, but I didn't know how. My closest friend, the maid Lily, was too plain for the barbarian officers to fancy. By luck, she survived and was kept in the palace to do hard labor. She could move around more freely and sometimes brought me news from outside. The barbarians of Westland had occupied all of the western capital. They were arresting people across the city. Any royals and officials who hadn't escaped when the city fell were seized and tortured. They were also searching everywhere for a woman named Camila Feng, the 5th princess of Emperor Julian Feng. No one in the western capital was allowed to leave the city, so escape was nearly impossible. "Even if we get out of the western capital, where would we go?" Lily said gloomily. We both understood. Liang had already lost half its realm. Heavy snow had sealed Snow Ridge Pass, so the barbarians couldn't push east for the moment. The emperor could hold the eastern capital a few more days, but once the snow melted, the eastern capital would be in danger too. After Lily left, I worried about my future all over again. My chest felt tight. I opened the window and let the cold wind pour in, staring blankly into the dark. Steady footsteps sounded outside. Adrian Murong was back. I quickly shut the window and stood stiff as a board. He said, "It's pitch black out there. What are you looking at?" I had nothing to do. The study is next door. Go in and find a book to read. That old fool Emperor Julian Feng stocked plenty of good ones. I lowered my head and said timidly, "I can't read." Adrian Murong looked surprised. "There are Liang women who can't read? Only daughters from wealthy families can afford a tutor." "Oh." He clasped his hands behind his back and paced to the window. Then he said, "My fiancée is a great talent." The corner of his mouth curved, as if he were smiling. "Her handwriting is beautiful, loose, elegant, unlike anyone else's, and her writing is even better. Even when she curses someone, the phrasing dazzles. It's the kind of thing that makes people slam the table in awe." I murmured, "I can't do anything. I don't deserve your kindness." "No, you have your own virtues." He turned to look at me the way someone looks at a pet. "You're obedient." "Is your fiancé not obedient?" I asked, half lifting my gaze. "Almost innocent." He said, "She's the least obedient person in the world." 10 days later, the snow stopped. The barbarians prepared to cross Snow Ridge Pass and attack the eastern capital, where the Emperor of Liang was. The Crown Prince of Liang and the 6th Prince, Liu Feng, led 100,000 troops to meet them at Snow Ridge Pass. Incredibly, Liang won. They fought again. The barbarians lost again. Adrian Murong flew into a rage. In the study, he spoke with his men in their own language. His tone was vicious. When they finished, the commander who had lost the battle was beheaded on the spot. The remaining commanders carried the body away, trembling. I crouched on the floor and scrubbed at the bloodstains. Adrian Murong sat behind the desk, watching me with a dark gaze. "Have you seen Camila Feng?" he asked suddenly. "You mean Princess Camila?" I asked. "You've seen her?" Princess Camila usually stays in the eastern capital. She rarely follows the court here to spend the winter. I've never seen her. Adrian Murong let out an irritated breath. "Why are you asking about Princess Camila?" I asked. He said, "Camila Feng is my fiancée." I froze. Princess Camila's betrothed was this barbarian prince? "She isn't obedient. I'm going to catch her and kill her." I stared at him, stunned. He rose and walked out. That night, Adrian Murong drank. When he returned to Jade Rest Hall and saw me, he said, "Wren, I want to see you dance." There was no music, so I danced stiffly. Yet he watched, transfixed, and clapped. "Good, so beautiful." All at once, he yanked my sash and dragged me into his arms. He buried his face in my neck and inhaled hard. "Wren, you smell so good." I was so tense my whole body went rigid. "Don't be afraid of me," he said. "Stay with me. I'll treat you well. I'll treat you well for the rest of your life." I looked at him, dumbfounded. A barbarian who beheaded men in his study. A barbarian who said he would catch his fiancée and kill her. And he spoke so gently to a captive maid? Yet if I thought about it, he truly had been good to me these days. He didn't touch me. He didn't bully me. He was polite. Sometimes he even told me what was on his mind. I didn't understand why he treated me so well. But my heart warmed anyway. No one had ever treated me like this. No one had ever cared so much. A few days later, the barbarians and Liang fought again at Snow Ridge Pass. Adrian Murong went to the battlefield himself. This time, I heard he won a great victory. He even captured the 6th Prince, Liu Feng, alive. On the night Adrian Murong returned in triumph, another victory feast was held in the Winter Palace. I stood beside him. He kept ordering me to pour wine. He seemed in a fine mood. At least he didn't kill anyone on the spot. When the drinking had reached a pleasant haze, a general asked him, "Prince, what do you plan to do with Liu Feng?" Adrian Murong set down his empty cup. "If Liang fulfills the marriage contract and sends Princess Camila over, I'll release Liu Feng." My hand shook as I poured, and wine spilled. He glanced up at me and said coolly, "Leave." After the feast ended, he was very drunk. I supported him as we walked back to Jade Rest Hall. Halfway there, he suddenly asked, "Wren, if I bring Camila Feng back, are you unhappy?" I quickly said, How would I dare? When she comes, I'll kill her, and I'll keep you by my side dancing for me. I took it for drunken talk. Prince, why do you have to kill her? If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have come to fight this damned war. Oh, so the barbarians attacked Leon because of a princess? I didn't quite believe it, but I said nothing. I helped him onto the bed. Don't go. He grabbed me hard and pulled me into his reeking, wine-soaked arms. Then I heard him snore. Leon agreed to Adrian Murong's deal. They were willing to trade Princess Camila Feng for Liu Feng. After all, Liu Feng's mother, Consort Duan, supported it. How could Emperor Julian Feng bear to wrong her son? When Lily told me, she was furious. I want to see what they'll come up with to fool the barbarians. That sixth prince is evil. He deserves to be butchered. I said nothing. I only looked out the window. Lately, my mood had been low, my chest tight. When Adrian Murong came back, he found me staring into the black window again. He called Wren twice before I reacted. He laughed. Silly girl. Half the time I call your name, you don't even answer. I went to him, helped him remove his cloak, and asked casually, Princess Camila should arrive tomorrow, right? Congratulations. He looked down at me. Congratulations for what? I didn't answer. I took his cloak to hang it up. He caught my hand, swept the cloak from my grasp, and suddenly kissed me. I pushed at him. He wrapped an arm around me so tightly I could barely breathe. There was no alcohol on his breath. He wasn't drunk. Then why? Before I could think, he'd pressed me down onto the bed. The pain was unbearable. I cried out. He stopped and wiped my tears with his thumb. The rough calluses scraped, stinging and itching at once. Wren, don't cry. I won't like Camila Feng. I only like you. I won't like Camila Feng. I only like you. His words left me dazed. In the deep night, he held me as we lay in silence. This bed had once been the Emperor's dragon bed. He had held his lovely consorts here through countless winter nights and spring dawns. I never imagined I would lie here too, and with a Westland barbarian prince of all people. He didn't sleep, neither did I. He said, Wren, do you want to hear about Princess Camila and me? I felt torn. If I said no, it would be a lie. But I was afraid it would hurt to hear. Adrian Murong spoke anyway. Camila Feng and I were promised to each other before we were born. King Victor Murong of Westland and Emperor Julian Feng of Leon had once been long-time drinking companions. King Victor Murong had even sent troops to help Julian Feng put down a rebellion led by a southern general. After that victory, the two of them drank too much. They grabbed their wives, both pregnant, and made a betrothal for the children in their wombs. Not long after, Julian Feng's empress gave birth first, a daughter named Camila Feng. 3 days later, King Victor Murong's queen gave birth as well, a son named Adrian Murong. And so the marriage was set. Camila Feng grew up knowing she had a fiancé named Adrian Murong. Adrian Murong grew up knowing he had a fiancée named Camila Feng. Camila Feng lived in the imperial palace of the eastern capital. Adrian Murong lived in the royal palace of Westland. More than 3,000 miles lay between them. They never met. But they began writing letters to each other when they were very young. The letters were simple. They cursed each other. Camila Feng looked down on Adrian Murong. Adrian Murong didn't think much of Camila Feng either. They traded insults from afar for more than 10 years. When they turned 17, it was time to fulfill the engagement. By Leon custom, King Victor Murong was to bring the bride price himself and go to the eastern capital to propose to Emperor Julian Feng. King Victor Murong didn't want to go. By then, relations between Westland and Leon had already soured. So Adrian Murong pleaded with his father, saying he wanted to marry Camila Feng and bully her. King Victor Murong couldn't refuse his son. He went with the gifts. But not long after he arrived in the eastern capital, King Victor Murong was beheaded. His corpse hung at the city gate for more than 10 days. Adrian Murong was furious. He swore to wipe out the Feng clan to avenge his father. Until his vengeance was complete, he would not inherit the throne. Soon, Westland gathered 300,000 elite troops and attacked Leon. Wherever Adrian Murong took a city, he beheaded members of the Feng imperial family. He pushed from west to east, drenched in blood and death. A year later, the western capital fell. Adrian Murong told me all this, but one detail struck me as strange. He and his fiancée had never met. To be so consumed by a woman he'd never even seen. I couldn't understand him at all. The next day, Murong announced he was taking me as a concubine. The official queen would arrive any day now. At a moment like this, bringing in a side woman, what was he trying to do? It was obvious. He meant to humiliate Princess Camila and humiliate the Leon kingdom. In Westland, taking concubines was as casual as it was in the Leon kingdom. There were no ceremonies to speak of. Besides, Adrian Murong wasn't thinking about any of that. He stayed in his study, staring at a painting. In it, a woman danced as light as a feather. She wore a golden hairpin and ornate robes. Her dark hair was piled high, her skin pale as snow. Her figure curved as her long sleeves whirled. Behind her, a red sun sank into a blaze of tangled clouds. The glow rolled like fire, as if it could burn straight through the paper. "Do you know what dance this is?" he asked me. I shook my head. He pointed to 3 small characters in the lower right corner. "Guanmu dance. Guanmu dance. They say it's Camila Feng's signature." His gaze drifted distant. 3 years ago, someone presented this painting to me. That's when I learned that Camila Feng, the one with the beautiful handwriting and brilliant prose, could also dance like this. All at once, I understood. I understood why he liked me, because I could dance. At that victory banquet, I danced in front of the hall. It must have reminded him of the Guanmu dance. A young, beautiful woman from the Leon kingdom, dressed in palace finery and dancing, she must have looked exactly like the Camila Feng in his mind. He'd taken me for her. He never touched me, yet the night before she arrived, he took me. Then he made me his concubine. It was all too deliberate. Was he trying to hurt her? Or trying to prove to himself that he didn't care about her? After a long silence, I asked, "Are you still planning to kill your fiancé?" His fingertips brushed over the painted woman, making a soft, rasping sound. How could I bear to? At dusk, Princess Camila arrived at the Winter Palace. Adrian Murong didn't let her come to Jade Rest Hall. He settled her in Bright Sky Hall instead. That night, he didn't come back. I sat by the window. It stood open, and wind and snow poured in. Early the next morning, Adrian Murong returned to Jade Rest Hall alone. He went straight to the study and discussed military matters with his officers all morning. At noon, I was eating when he suddenly swept aside the curtain and strode in. "Eating without calling me?" he said with a smile. I stood. "Aren't you going to eat with Princess Camila?" His eyes dimmed for an instant, then went blankly calm again. "I'm hungry. I'm eating more today." I brought him a fresh bowl and chopsticks. He lowered his head and ate with gusto. He looked like he was enjoying it, but his gaze kept drifting. His mind wasn't on the food. It wasn't on me either. Then his hand reached toward the plate of leftover bones. He picked up a beef bone I'd already gnawed on and brought it to his mouth. "Hey, that one's mine! I already ate it!" I shouted. He jolted back to himself and looked at the bone in his hand. Instead of blaming himself for spacing out, he smoothly turned it on me. "Why are you so fierce?" "And you're rolling your eyes at me, am I, Wren?" He set down his chopsticks and asked solemnly, "Are you upset? Are you jealous?" I stared at him, dumbfounded. "Fine. Whatever you said, I guess. I can't win with you. I'm going," I said, turning to flee. Suddenly, he wrapped an arm around my waist from behind. "No running. My good little Wren, you can't escape my palm." My face heated. "I'm not running. I'm gonna add a few more dishes for you. Wren is the best dish of all. I don't need anything else." He bent to my neck. His breath tickled, making my scalp tighten. I covered the hand around my waist. Outside was a world of ice and snow, but his hand was hot. "Wren, if a girl's in a bad mood, how do you make her happy?" Camila Feng, she cried all night yesterday." I let go of his hand, raised mine to smooth my hair, and said flatly, "Oh, cried all night? She probably misses her family. She isn't used to being here." "That's possible. She might be a little afraid of you. Maybe you shouldn't go to her for now. Let her calm down. In a few days she'll be fine." "Really? Don't go to her first?" He sounded doubtful. "Yeah, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Give it a couple of days. She'll think it through. She'll be afraid you'll neglect her, and she'll come to you on her own." Oh. Over the next few days, Adrian Murong really didn't go to see Princess Camila. His self-control was almost surprising. But I knew his heart kept flying toward Bright Sky Hall. He was with me in body, but not in spirit. I acted as if I knew nothing. "Wren, it's been days. Why hasn't she come to see me?" One day, while he was writing, he suddenly flung down his brush in irritation and snapped at me. I set the brush back in place and said slowly, "The snow has stopped. The plum blossoms are blooming in Whisperwood Garden. Let's go for a walk." Adrian, Murong, and I walked through Whisperwood Garden among the plum trees, one behind the other. One tree had especially fine blossoms. I rose on tiptoe to smell them. I heard footsteps behind me, turned, and saw a beauty. She wore a light white cloak. A golden ornament hung at her temple. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold. She looked like a red plum branch pressed under snow. I thought, that must be Princess Camila Feng. I wanted to avoid her, but it was too late. She'd seen me too. She looked shocked, truly, utterly shocked. "Camila Feng?" Adrian Murong was shocked as well. He blurted, "Are you here to see me?" I sighed. This blunt fool. But Camila Feng kept staring at me, her brow drawn tight. Adrian Murong glanced at me and said, "She is my beloved concubine. Wren, greet the princess." I didn't move. I met her gaze. I thought Princess Camila was very beautiful, but not as beautiful as me. "Wren," Adrian Murong called again. I turned and ran. That evening, Adrian Murong didn't come back for dinner. I didn't eat either. I kept the window open and let the cold wind blow in. Before long, Adrian Murong actually returned. "Wren, it's the dead of winter. What kind of habit is this? Letting cold wind in?" He shut the window for me. I caught a faint plum scent on him. "How is Princess Camila? Is she still angry with you?" I asked. "Much better." He sat down and drank from my teacup. "My patience is limited. If she keeps putting on airs, I'll kill her." I thought, sure, he'd said 100 times he'd kill her. And what had he done? After that, I saw Adrian Murong less and less. He had 3 major matters to handle. First, making peace with the Liang Kingdom. Second, moving the capital to the western capital. Third, the grand wedding. This time, the Liang Kingdom had suffered a crushing loss. They gave up all land west of Snowridge Pass, and they even paid with a princess. There would probably be a huge indemnity on the way, too. Moving the capital was no small thing. Adrian Murong needed to return to Westland. He planned to take Princess Camila back with him to marry her. By Westland custom, a couple had to worship the gods at the ancestral temple. Only then would they be blessed by heaven. Before he left, Adrian Murong came to eat a meal with me. "Wren, I'll be back soon. Be good." I was listless and had no appetite, but I forced myself to sound cheerful. Don't worry. When have I ever been anything but good?" He gave a few more brief instructions. Someone outside reminded him it was time to depart. I helped him into his cloak. He pinched my cheek and left. After Adrian Murong left, I stayed obediently in the Winter Palace and suddenly realized spring was coming early this year. One day, as the willows began to bud and the plum blossoms started to fall, the Liang Kingdom launched a surprise attack on the western capital. The commander was Crown Prince Arthur Feng of the Liang Kingdom. He was a true military talent, brave and shrewd, a rare exception among the Feng family's useless playboys. After 2 days and 2 nights of brutal fighting, the Liang forces retook the western capital. The whole city erupted in celebration. The Winter Palace fell into chaos, just like when the Westland people had first fought their way in. But unlike the Liang people, Westland's palace servants and guards were stubborn. They refused to run. They fought to the death to defend the Winter Palace. In the end, the Liang soldiers slaughtered them all. I sat inside Jade Rest Hall, listening to the clash of blades, the screams, the barked orders outside. I also heard someone command, "Go find Princess Camila." Another voice answered, "Yes, Crown Prince." Camila Feng, no matter who came, they looked for her first. She really was the center of it all. Westland was far from the western capital, after all. By the day Adrian Murong fought his way back, summer was nearly here. Arthur Feng had drilled his troops and prepared for war. He'd been waiting a long time. A battle broke out in the countryside outside the western capital. It raged for days, vicious beyond words. In the end, Westland's people were the more savage. The Liang army slowly began to falter, and supplies from the eastern capital kept failing to arrive. The treasury had long been drained by the Feng family's parasites. They couldn't sustain a war that long. At last, Adrian Murong's army surrounded the city. Arthur Feng was hard as iron. He neither retreated nor surrendered. He held the walls against wave after wave of Westland's ferocious assaults, and he held on for more than 10 days. Food inside the city was already dangerously scarce. If it went on, people would start eating people. Adrian Murong lost patience. At dusk, on the day the first summer rain ended, several newly built gigantic catapults appeared outside the city. They were going to smash the walls. The western capital's walls were tall, but they were old and poorly maintained. They couldn't take that kind of pounding. Just then, Arthur Feng brought out his final trump card, me. My hands were bound, and I was forced up to the highest point of the wall. The sunset was fierce. Crimson clouds churned on the horizon like an enraged fire dragon. Facing the twilight, I saw Adrian Murong below. He sat on a white horse. His red cloak streamed in the wind, matching the dusk behind him. He saw me. I stared back. I didn't know if he could still recognize me. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and I had changed. My belly was huge. I was no longer that light, delicate Wren. I looked like a clumsy duck. He lifted his head and stared for a long, long time. From this distance, I couldn't make out his expression. But I knew what he was doing, choosing between this concubine and the illegitimate child in her belly, and the city of the western capital. If I were him, I would hesitate too. The catapults were already loaded with massive stones. At his command, the wall and everyone on it could be smashed into pulp. East of these walls lay the Liang Kingdom's vast, fertile lands. Beauty. Wealth. His horse suddenly whinnied twice. I felt he'd made up his mind. He raised his right hand, then dropped it decisively. The boulder launched at once, tearing through the air toward the wall with a terrifying roar. A dense rain of arrows followed. I closed my eyes. The western capital fell. The Liang defenses collapsed completely. They fled in panic, abandoning the city and retreating east. When the smoke cleared, Adrian Murong found me near the collapsed wall. My head and face were smeared with dirt. I was hiding in a hole in the rubble like a monkey. He ran over, examined me for a long time, and when he saw I was safe and sound, he let out a breath and brushed the dirt from my hair. I slapped his hand away and glared at him, furious. Wren, I'm sorry. I had no choice. To take the western capital, Westland has already lost too many men. His clothes were soaked with blood. The Liang soldiers who had died by his hand today were surely not few. He gently touched my belly, amazed. Wren, when I left, why didn't you tell me? To be honest, when I discovered I was pregnant, I felt miserable. This child had come at the worst possible time. The world was in chaos. The child's father was busy marrying someone else. I didn't even know if I could give birth safely. Just now, I had nearly been killed by the child's father's catapult. Adrian Murong looked genuinely happy. He personally took me back to the Winter Palace, settled me in Jade Rest Hall, and fussed over me with endless concern. But he never once asked what I'd been through in Arthur Feng's hands. Maybe he didn't care. He'd never asked about my background, my past, or my future. Between him and me, there was only the present. He stayed with me only briefly before leaving again. The western capital had just been recovered, and there was too much to do. After he left, I noticed many more guards outside Jade Rest Hall. Over the next few days, Adrian Murong still didn't come to see me. I didn't know where he'd gone. But soon, another person returned to the Winter Palace. Princess Camila Feng came back a few days after him, hurrying from Westland. Thanks to Arthur Feng, her wedding to Adrian Murong hadn't happened. It would likely be delayed again. Camila Feng still lived in Bright Sky Hall, facing my Jade Rest Hall from afar. That day, after lunch, someone came to report. Princess Camila wanted to see me. Since the accidental encounter in Whisperwood Garden, we had never met again. With Adrian Murong away, she suddenly wanted to see me. Why? A wife and a concubine meeting was bound to be ugly. In Bright Sky Hall, Princess Camila looked like a peony denied water, melancholy, wan, a beauty on the verge of wilting. When she saw me, she actually said, "Save me." She told me she couldn't stay here any longer. She wanted to go home. I asked her, "Does Adrian Murong treat you well?" She said, "If he ignores me, does that count as treating me well?" Only then did I realize how cold Adrian Murong was toward her. It wasn't that the Liang Kingdom had torn up the peace agreement, and he grew cold afterward. He'd been cold from the very beginning. Many times I'd thought Adrian Murong had gone to Bright Sky Hall to eat and spend the night. In truth, he'd gone out of the palace on business. To Princess Camila, he never said more than a single extra sentence. He never smiled at her. He never even looked at her directly. He had schemed so hard to get his fiancée, his white moonlight, his cinnabar mark, yet once he had her, he ignored her. Did he truly love Camila Feng? She begged me to help her escape the Winter Palace. There are guards outside. Only if we draw them away will I have a chance. Only you can help me. On the way back from Bright Sky Hall, Lily tried to persuade me. Just leave her alone, we can barely handle ourselves. I looked at the dusk on the horizon. I want her gone from in front of me as soon as possible. Part 2. The next day, I went to Bright Sky Hall again. After talking with Princess Camila for a while, I suddenly broke into a cold sweat. Clutching my stomach, I collapsed onto the floor. Lily screamed, "Oh no, she's upset the pregnancy." Then she rushed out, shouting for help. The guards outside were sent scrambling for a physician, hot water, medicine. Everything dissolved into a frenzy. The physician came, took my pulse, and stroked his beard in confusion. I don't detect anything wrong with the pulse. I rubbed my belly and said, It really doesn't hurt anymore. Only then did someone realize Princess Camila was gone. This was serious. They searched at once, but after turning the entire Winter Palace upside down, they still couldn't find her. That night, Adrian Murong returned. After calmly listening to the report of Princess Camila's disappearance, he beckoned me closer and asked with concern, "Does your stomach still hurt?" "It doesn't," I said. Suddenly, pain burst across my left cheek. It took me a moment to understand. Adrian Murong had slapped me. The slap wasn't hard, but it was the first time he'd ever laid a hand on me. I was stunned. He only sneered. "Don't tell me you feel wronged. Do you dare say Camila Feng wasn't let out by you?" I flared up and shouted, "I'm jealous. I don't want you with her." "Really?" The ice in his eyes loosened a little. "That's what you think. Otherwise, why would I take a risk like this?" "Maybe you have another reason." "What reason?" "You can't forget your old master." I was even more shocked. He seized my arm, dragged me to the window, and shoved it open. I saw Lily kneeling on the steps below. A guard stood beside her, raising a long blade. The blade fell. Lily's little head, always bobbing, never still, fell too. I stood rigid, watching it happen in the blink of an eye. Adrian Murong kept his eyes on me, studying my reaction. I didn't cry out, I didn't beg. I only stared at him, eyes red. "That's not enough," Adrian Murong said. "Camila Feng is the one I traded Liu Feng for. Now she's run, that sixth prince should die too." I frowned, staring at him in confusion. "These past 2 days I've driven the Liang people all the way back to Snow Ridge Pass, and I captured your sixth prince again. He's been sentenced to death by arrows. It'll be carried out at once. Do you want to come watch the execution with me?" My face changed. "I'm not going." "Now you're afraid?" he sneered. "When you served at the Winter Palace, did you attend to your sixth prince? Can't bear to lose him, "I'm not going, I'm not going." I turned and ran. He yanked me back. "You're going whether you like it or not. I want you to see with your own eyes how your old master dies. Then you'll remember who your new master is and you'll stop playing tricks in front of me." On the circular execution ground, Liu Feng was tied to a wooden frame. A ring of Westland soldiers stood around him with bows. Adrian Murong dragged me forward until we stood directly opposite Liu Feng. Liu Feng's eyes were covered. He couldn't see what was happening, but he could already smell death. He broke down, screaming, "Third brother, fifth sister, save me, save me." Later it turned into, "Arthur Feng, Camila Feng, you worthless pair. Even in the underworld, I won't let you go." "Carry it out," Adrian Murong said lazily. An archer shot the first arrow, striking Liu Feng in the thigh. "Ah!" he screamed. The second arrow pierced his knee, the third, his shoulder. 7 or 8 arrows sank in, none of them fatal. They were going to torture him to death. Slowly, Liu Feng kept screaming himself hoarse. "Third brother, save me! Fifth sister, save me! Don't leave me alone!" Adrian Murong said, "Remove the cloth from his eyes. Let him watch himself die." A guard stepped forward and tore off the blindfold. I couldn't bear it. I turned away. Adrian Murong forced me back around, making me face forward. "Watch carefully." Liu Feng saw us. His bloodshot eyes flew wide. Like a maddened beast, he roared, fifth sister, save me, save me." The direction he stared in was me. "Camila Feng, you're that heartless? You're gonna watch me die?" he screamed at me. Adrian Murong slowly turned his head to look at me. I didn't look back. I lifted a hand and smoothed my hair. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A rain of arrows flew in from all sides. The guards around Adrian Murong were hit and dropped. The remaining guards drew their blades, only to be cut down by their own companions. In moments, Adrian Murong was surrounded. The ones encircling him were Liang covert guards dressed in Westland uniforms. Across the wall of weapons, he glared at me and shouted my name. "Camila Feng," I ordered. "Bind Adrian Murong and take him to Jade Rest Hall." After taking 2 steps, I turned and instructed my personal guards. "My 6th brother is badly wounded. Save him if you can. If you can't, don't force it. When Consort Duan asks, just say he died by Adrian Murong's hand." My guard understood at once. "Princess Camila, I understand." In the study at Jade Rest Hall, the person behind the desk this time was me. Adrian Murong stood before me, bound tight with ropes. I was unusually generous. I didn't make him kneel. I left him a shred of dignity. Adrian Murong was calm, his eyes worn and weathered. "Camila Feng," he said, almost admiring. "Brilliant acting, brilliant scheming." "Passable," I replied, examining my nails with bored indifference. "I already paid a steep price. I even gave up my body." His eyes narrowed. "So from the very beginning, this was all your design?" "Since you're asking about the beginning, I'll tell it properly. In the beginning, it wasn't my design. When the barbarians attacked the Winter Palace in the Western capital without warning, I was stunned. I wanted to run too. But Nora Feng, the 7th princess, tripped me, and I didn't make it out. That's how we Feng siblings are. We've been undermining each other since childhood. More than a few have died that way. In the chaos, I changed into a maid's clothes and blended in. That's how I was taken by the barbarians. Those maids all recognized me, but none dared expose me. After so many years in the Liang Palace, I still had that much intimidation left. When the barbarians held their victory banquet, I, Princess Camila, knelt outside Jade Rest Hall. The maids beside me sobbed. I racked my brain for a way out. Not far away, a wren hopped through the snow, carefree. All at once I thought, if only I could turn into a wren, spread my wings, and fly out of the Western capital. How wonderful that would be. Then the barbarians came over and said their prince wanted to watch someone dance. Liang Kingdom maids enter the palace at 8 or 9. Who among them knows how to dance? And if we couldn't satisfy them, who knew what they'd do next? So I could only say, "I'll dance." That was the first time I saw Adrian Murong. He was very handsome, every line of his face sharp and bold. His skin was a shade darker, giving him a hardened, rugged look. Not bad. My Guanmu dance was famous in the eastern capital. My 3rd brother, Arthur Feng, the crown prince, kept hundreds of dancers, yet even he couldn't resist my Guanmu dance. He said that when I danced, I looked like an immortal, and like a demon. At that victory banquet, I only took a few casual steps and Adrian Murong was bewitched. What? Wasn't he the one who swore he loved only Camila Feng? That he'd stay pure for her and marry no one else? I'm not making it up. Back then, that's exactly what he wrote in his letters to me. I refused him. He wouldn't accept it, and even had his father come to propose. Arthur Feng killed his father, and only then did Adrian Murong rise in fury and go to war. And yet he fell for a dancer that quickly, and treated her so gently? In his letters, he'd never been that gentle with me. As the real Camila Feng, I was a little hurt, and then I realized he didn't like that Wren all that much either. To him, she was just a substitute, a stand-in for Camila Feng. Honestly, I couldn't figure out what he was thinking. I've never been that twisted about love. If I like someone, I like them. If I don't, I don't. During the time I stayed by Adrian Murong's side, I wasn't idle. When he was away, I read every stack of intelligence in his study. When he returned, I still had to pretend I couldn't read. Exhausting. When he spoke with his generals in the study, I listened openly from outside. For their most sensitive matters, they used the Westland barbarian tongue. But I understood Westland, so yes, lucky me. Every evening at dusk, I opened a window and passed intelligence to the insider waiting outside. Did they think I enjoyed opening windows just to freeze in the wind? Intelligence work was brutal. That was why, when Adrian Murong fought Arthur Feng at Snowridge Pass, he lost again and again. Without intelligence, the Liang army's skills wouldn't have even scratched Adrian Murong. It only benefited Crown Prince Arthur Feng. But later, Adrian Murong still won. He even captured Liu Feng alive. A pack of fools. Still, if Liu Feng ended up in Adrian Murong's hands, that wasn't so bad. The crown prince and I had been sick of the sixth prince for a long time, but his mother, consort Duan, was too formidable. We couldn't touch him. I guessed Liu Feng's capture had to involve a bit of help from the crown prince. What I didn't expect was that Adrian Murong actually wanted to trade Liu Feng for Camila Feng. Was I really that valuable? Lily said bitterly. Princess Camila, when the barbarians came, they threw you in the Winter Palace and left you there. Now let's see what they can possibly offer to deal with the barbarians. I was honestly a little panicked. If Liang Kingdom couldn't hand over a person and Adrian Murong was pushed too far, someone who knew the truth might leak it, then I'd be finished. But then, another surprise. They really did hand over Princess Camila. The crown prince told me through our insider that the emperor and consort Duan were desperate to save their son. They forced Nora Feng, the seventh princess, to impersonate me. Fine. Back then, Nora Feng had tripped me and left me trapped in the Winter Palace to be captured. She probably hadn't expected karma to come so fast. The night before Princess Camila arrived at the Winter Palace, Adrian Murong somehow lost control and put his hands on me. I should have resisted. But I don't know why. I softened. My body softened, my heart softened too. When he held me and kissed me, my mind went blank. I let him push me down that easily. The moment he became my man and I became his woman, I cried. He thought it was pain. It wasn't. I was just a little happy. My mother died early. No one had ever loved me. Not once. No one treasured me. My family used me and I used them. I hated my father most of all. Before I was even born, he promised me to a barbarian prince. All my life, I hated that unseen fiancé. Or maybe I didn't hate him. Maybe I hated my fate. And yet it was Adrian Murong, of all people, who gave me the warmest experience of my life. That night, he even told me about his story with Camila Feng. His tone was disdainful when he spoke of her, but I could hear the love underneath. He loved her. His hatred was born from love. The tenderness he gave me as Wren was love borrowed from Camila Feng. He loved this me because he loved another me. Strange, when you thought about it. The next day, Adrian Murong wanted to take me as a concubine. Ha! Ha ha! I laughed myself half to death inside. In the eastern capital, countless talented men lined up, wailing to be my prince consort. And you, a barbarian prince, wanted me as your concubine? Fine, I'll do it. The game was almost over anyway. After Nora Feng moved into Bright Sky Hall, I truly didn't trust her. That girl had long hair and a short brain. Could she really fool Adrian Murong? All it would take was for him to mention something from our letters, or ask her to dance the Guanmu dance. She'd give herself away on the spot. But Adrian Murong didn't seem to notice. Not until he ran into Nora Feng in the plum grove at Whisperwood Garden. That was when she realized I'd been undercover, at Adrian Murong's side the whole time. I guessed she was furious. She'd been forced to play the fake, and I was the one benefiting. But she didn't dare expose me. Exposing me would expose her, too. Soon after, Adrian Murong returned to Westland, and I could finally do as I pleased. I mobilized all the hidden guards and insiders in the Western capital. Working with Arthur Feng from within, I retook the Western capital. Arthur Feng, imposing and proud, slaughtered his way back to the Winter Palace. Outside Jade Rest Hall, he shouted urgently, "Go find Princess Camila." I wasn't naive enough to think he cared about my safety. He feared I'd run in the chaos, return to the eastern capital, and report Liu Feng's capture to the emperor, setting a trap for him. The days in the Winter Palace with Arthur Feng were mind-numbingly dull. The moment that spoiled crown prince relaxed, his true nature showed. He started chasing pleasure and entertainment. I knew Adrian Murong would come back. We couldn't hold this place. I wanted to run, leave this cursed place. But Arthur Feng kept a tight watch on me. We grew up together. He'd rather die than let me live without him. Then I found out I was pregnant. At first I panicked. How could I return to the eastern capital with a Murong child? How would the Feng family use it to shame me? Later, I changed my thinking. This child could be useful, a bargaining chip with Adrian Murong. I began making arrangements throughout the Western capital and the Winter Palace. I placed a large number of hidden guards in case I needed them. In spring, Adrian Murong did come back. Soon his army was at the city gates. I said to Arthur Feng with absolute sincerity, "Third brother, run. I'll stay. I'll keep acting as your inside agent. We can rise again. We can come back." Arthur Feng said stubbornly. No, if I lose the Western capital again, I'll lose face in court again. I can't afford that shame, fifth sister. You'll have to suffer a bit. He ordered his men to drag me up onto the city wall to display me to Adrian Murong. Poor, stupid Arthur Feng. He thought Adrian Murong would pity me and give up the Western capital he was about to take. To him, I was only a concubine, worth about as much as a slightly pricier bird. Sure enough, Adrian Murong ignored me and ordered the assault. To be honest, it stung. Then I let it go. I'd never given him my true heart. Why should I demand his? After the city fell, when I saw Adrian Murong again, I couldn't suppress a small thrill. I thought I liked him. A man like that, handsome, strong, straightforward, and so devoted. None of the talented men in the Eastern capital could compare. No one was more suited to be my prince consort. I wanted him to be my prince consort. If he became my prince consort, my child would be heir to the Westland throne. Then no one in the Feng clan would dare bully me again. I could bully whoever I wanted. When the fake Camila Feng returned to the Winter Palace, irritation rose in me for no reason. I'd always hated Nora Feng too, but this time the feeling spiked to a new peak. I began seriously considering how to make her disappear, and she actually asked to see me. In Bright Sky Hall, the sisters met. There was no heartfelt talk, no tearful embrace. Nora Feng jumped up and cursed me for shoving her into a fire pit. I listened quietly, smiling as she ranted. Then I asked her, "Do you want to leave? I can help you get out." "Really?" Nora Feng's expression changed instantly. She clutched my sleeve pitifully. "Save me." We worked out a plan and decided to act the next day. When we left Bright Sky Hall, Lily tried to persuade me. "Princess, forget her. We can barely handle our own affairs." I looked at the dusk on the horizon. "I want her out of my sight as soon as possible. She's stuck between me and Adrian Murong. I can't do what comes next." And I had already planned what came next. In this Winter Palace, everyone in the shadows was mine. All I needed was the right moment. I would control Adrian Murong, force him to become my prince consort, then kill him, and let our child inherit the Westland throne. When that happened, Westland would be mine. So Nora Feng, this queen, had to disappear. The next day, I pretended I had stomach pain and fooled the guards. Nora Feng slipped out of Bright Sky Hall without a hitch. Outside the hall was a carriage I'd arranged, waiting to take her out of the palace. She climbed in happily, dreaming of the splendid bustle of the Eastern capital. But she had no idea this carriage would never take her back to the Eastern capital. Where it would take her was endless night. I understood Nora Feng's disappearance would likely enrage Adrian Murong. A slap across the face. The maids around me put to death. All of that was within my expectations. When Lily's head hit the ground, I didn't react much. Once this was over, I would mourn her properly. Right now, I had no strength to spare. But the one thing outside my expectations was that Leo Feng, that stupid boy, was captured alive by Adrian Murong again. Needless to say, it was Arthur Feng stirring trouble again. What shocked me even more was that Adrian Murong wanted to bring me to watch Leo Feng's execution in person. "I'm not going," I refused flatly. Leo Feng would recognize me. He would expose my identity without hesitation, and even in death he'd drag me down with him. Adrian Murong wouldn't accept it. He forced me to the execution ground. When I saw Leo Feng's eyes covered, I felt a flicker of relief. As he was executed, he shouted for me and Arthur Feng, begging us to save him. I sighed to myself. "Sixth brother, if your mother hadn't been so reckless, you wouldn't have ended up like this." Originally, he could have lived comfortably in the Eastern capital as a noble imperial prince. But Consort Duan wanted her son to win glory, so she sent him with the crown prince to Snowridge Pass to block the barbarians. Her plan was for the crown prince to fight at the front while Leo Feng managed supplies in the rear. She never expected the crown prince to sabotage him in secret, tricking Leo Feng into going deep behind enemy lines where he was caught on the spot. Then Consort Duan sent Nora Feng in exchange for her precious son. And this time, I had no idea what trick Arthur Feng used to ruin his brother again. No one would save Leo Feng now. As I thought that, I saw the cloth over Leo Feng's eyes removed. I quickly turned away, pretending I couldn't bear it. But Adrian Murong insisted, forcing me to face him again. It was over. Leo Feng saw me. Sure enough, he screamed, "Fifth sister, Camila Feng, you're ruthless." I'd planned to keep pretending longer, to wait for the right moment before confronting Adrian Murong. But now everything was boiling over. Who cared whether the moment was ripe? Luckily, my hidden guards were always in position. We could fight. In that fight, Adrian Murong lost. I won. Barely. And that's where the story ends for now. Back in the study at Jade Rest Hall, I looked at the defeated Adrian Murong, my emotions in a tangle. At first, I didn't want to be his enemy. I didn't even want any connection with him. When the barbarians attacked, all I wanted was to flee the Winter Palace. Later, things twisted into this. I kept telling myself I was forced into it, that I did it to protect myself and to keep the Feng dynasty's realm intact. I hated everyone in the Feng clan. But if the Feng clan fell, I wouldn't be able to stand either. So far, the plan was going smoothly. The only thing that displeased me was the way Adrian Murong was looking at me now. Cold, dark, empty of feeling. There was none of the anger, grief, or hatred I'd imagined. He seemed to accept reality with eerie calm, his gaze like a deep, dead lake. "Wren, why don't you kill me?" he asked, with a hint of mockery. He probably thought my victory was dishonorable. "If I kill you, my child won't have a father." I rested a hand on my belly. The lake in his eyes rippled slightly, and then he smiled. "So that's it? Then find another prince consort to be your child's father. Didn't you once write that the Eastern capital's finest men were lining up to be your prince consort?" Then, I looked at him. "Will you be my prince consort?" The lake in his eyes stirred again. "So you're finally willing now?" Back then, I'd refused to take him as my prince consort. In my letters, I rejected his proposal without mercy. I asked him, "Are you still willing now?" He sighed softly. "Camila Feng, you and I probably have no fate." Adrian Murong refused to be my prince consort. He saw through my intentions. He knew that if we became husband and wife in name and law, our child would have a claim to the Westland throne. Then I would kill him, become the Empress Dowager, and Westland would be mine. Once, he wanted to share Westland with me. Now he didn't. He said, "Camila Feng, you're a devil." I had him thrown into the death cell and whipped until he submitted. By day, he was beaten until his body was torn with wounds. By night, a physician treated him and applied medicine. We weren't married yet. He couldn't die. One day I went to see him. He was hung on a rack, his body drenched in blood. Only his face was untouched. I wouldn't let them damage his face. I liked it. "Adrian Murong, have you decided? Will you be my prince consort?" He smiled. "Wren, are you worthy?" I smiled back. "Wren isn't, but Camila Feng is. We're a perfect match. Childhood companions, evenly matched. If we join hands, no one can stand against us." He asked, "Then why weren't you willing before?" I didn't answer. No one outside knew Adrian Murong was imprisoned. I kept the news sealed tight. Outside the western capital stood 100,000 Westland soldiers. They still believed their king was in the Winter Palace, strategizing, plotting how to conquer the realm. It couldn't be hidden for long. All I could do was hold on until the child was born. Then it would be easier. But for some reason, Arthur Feng suddenly moved. Instead of guarding Snowridge Pass, he brought troops back and attacked. His excuse was to save sixth brother. "Why didn't you do it earlier? Your sixth brother has already finished his soup in the underworld." I guess there was a traitor at my side, someone who reported to Arthur Feng that I'd taken control of Adrian Murong. Arthur Feng feared I'd seize power in Westland, so he came to stir up trouble. Back then, when King Victor Murong came to the eastern capital to propose, I didn't want to marry. Arthur Feng, eager to play hero, killed King Victor Murong on his own. He was afraid I'd become Westland's mistress and threaten him later. For his own selfish interests, he brought disaster upon Leon Kingdom. And I was dragged in against my will, until I became someone I barely recognized. I didn't have many troops. All my forces were tied up controlling Adrian Murong. Arthur Feng advanced like a blade and quickly reached the western capital. Somehow, Arthur Feng's fighting power exploded this time. He launched a surprise attack and routed the 100,000 Westland troops outside the city. Clutching my belly, I ran all the way to the death cell and saw Adrian Murong. In recent days, he hadn't been beaten again. With proper treatment, he recovered quickly. He looked full of vigor. I had his shackles removed. He studied me, weighing me. "Go," I panted. "I've prepared a horse. Hidden guards will protect you out of the city. Arthur Feng is here. You absolutely cannot fall into his hands. If he fell into Arthur Feng's hands, he would be dead. Adrian Murong's gaze shifted slowly into something else. And you? He's my brother. He treats me well, I said lightly, waving a hand. Then I turned and left, taking not a single cloud with me. Walking from the cell to Jade Rest Hall, all that was left inside me was despair. This time I'd fallen into my dear brother's hands. I was definitely going to die. To Arthur Feng, I was no longer useful. Worse, I'd exposed my ambition. He would never spare me. Sixth brother, seventh sister. Wanna play do-diju? You're one player short, right? Fifth sister's on her way down to join you. As I walked, my belly began to cramp. By the time I reached Jade Rest Hall, a large patch of my skirt was soaked through with blood. My child couldn't wait to be born. I took 2 deep breaths, forced myself to stay calm, and said to the guards beside me, "Wait outside for a while. I'm going in to have this baby. Once he's born, take him and go. Anywhere is fine, just don't let him fall into Arthur Feng's hands." Yes. I closed the door and lay down on the bed, alone. A tidal wave of pain slammed into me. I drifted between lucidity and dizziness. I held on until nightfall, and the baby still hadn't come. Outside, faint sounds of fighting carried in. Arthur Feng had come, cutting his way in. My people weren't many. They wouldn't hold out for long. I stared up at the canopy with wide, furious eyes. "Adrian Murong, you got me killed." I heard someone enter Jade Rest Hall. I heard footsteps coming closer. I heard the tip of a blade strike a vessel with a sharp clang. Another burst of pain tore through me, and I screamed, "Adrian Murong, save me." I never expected Adrian Murong to actually appear. He kicked the door open, flung his sword down with a clatter, and ran to the bedside. "Camila Feng," he gripped my hand, "how are you?" "Why are you still here, Gope? Arthur Feng is coming." "He won't." He used his thumb to wipe the tears and sweat from my face. I drove him off. "He won't come back to bully you again." "Really? You're that strong?" I was in so much pain my face contorted, but I still couldn't help doubting him. "If I weren't, I'd have been gnawed down to the bone by you monster siblings a long time ago." At last, I let out a breath. I could have this baby in peace. "Adrian Murong, I'm thirsty. Pour me some water." Okay. "Adrian Murong, I'm cold. Shut the door properly." Okay. "Adrian Murong, it hurts. Give me your hand. I'm gonna bite it." Okay. At dawn the next day, my son with Adrian Murong was born. Western Capital, too, returned to calm. The sunrise washed away the bloodshed of the night before. Adrian Murong named our son Murong Li. I refused. I said the child had to take the Feng surname. The children of Feng princesses all followed the mother's line, and a consort had no right to claim the family name. In the end, we each gave a little. The child had 2 names, Murong Li and Feng Li. Arthur Feng hid for more than 10 days before he was caught and sent to the Winter Palace in Western Capital to be dealt with by Adrian Murong. Adrian Murong asked me, "Mumu, how do you want him to die?" I thought about it, thrilled for a long time, then said, "Maybe, you decide." "You don't actually want him dead, do you?" He saw right through me. I admitted it. I'd gone soft. My mother died early. The emperor didn't favor me. If you asked who I was closest to growing up, it was still my 3rd brother. That man was rotten to the core, but I wasn't much better. We were the same kind of trash, and neither of us minded the other. I also knew that whether I wanted him to die or not, he had to die. He was Adrian Murong's enemy, the one who'd killed his father. Adrian Murong would take that revenge no matter what. But before Adrian Murong could act, Arthur Feng killed himself. He didn't have many virtues, but he had one: backbone. In that, none of us siblings could compare. When I heard the news of his death, I shed one wistful tear. Just one. Any more would have been a waste. With Arthur Feng dead, Liang Kingdom's power west of Snowridge Pass collapsed completely. Adrian Murong moved the capital to Western Capital, proclaimed himself King of Westland, and turned the Winter Palace in Western Capital into a royal palace. That evening, at dusk, the autumn rain had just stopped. The western sunset was soft and red, and a rainbow lit the twilight, making everything look unusually clear and vivid. Adrian Murong cradled our son and walked with me beneath the fading light. He said, "This palace is still missing a queen. Princess Camila, interested?" I said, "Aren't you afraid I'll kill you someday? Let our son inherit the throne, and then rule as Empress Dowager from behind a screen?" he said, infuriatingly pleased with himself. Would you really do it? I smiled. Then he said, Mumu, I still want to know. Back then, when I proposed to you, why didn't you want to? Why? Because I didn't like him then. And why was I willing now? Because I like him. Extra. In the 17th year of the Tianli era, Adrian Murong came to eastern capital with his father, King Victor Murong. On the surface, their purpose was to propose a marriage. In truth, it was to negotiate secret state affairs with Emperor Julian Feng of Liang Kingdom. With both father and son arriving in eastern capital, they were far too conspicuous. So Adrian Murong disguised himself and followed King Victor Murong as a guard. In the end, King Victor Murong and Emperor Julian Feng fell out in their talks, and their fragile friendship officially came to an end. Even so, Emperor Julian Feng still agreed to honor the marriage pact and let King Victor Murong take Princess Camila Feng back to Westland. Before they left, the Crown Prince, Arthur Feng, hosted a banquet for King Victor Murong, saying it would also serve as a send-off for his younger sister. At the banquet, Adrian Murong, still disguised as a guard, saw Camila Feng for the first time. She was far prettier than he'd imagined. She didn't put on any princess airs. Her manner was graceful and proper, and when she spoke, she was witty and charming. She even performed in public, dancing the Camila dance and stunning everyone. Adrian Murong fell for her instantly. They had written to each other since childhood. He couldn't say he'd been madly in love with this childhood sweetheart. He'd simply been curious about her and liked her well enough. When he proposed, all those syrupy declarations in the letters were mostly politics. Westland needed to marry a Liang Kingdom princess, and among the emperor's many children, only Camila Feng was legitimate born. But seeing her this time, it was love at first sight. After the dance ended, Crown Prince Arthur Feng suddenly turned on them. Attendants all around drew blades and attacked King Victor Murong and his men. Camila Feng looked utterly bewildered. Clearly, she didn't know what was happening either. After a desperate fight, only Adrian Murong escaped. But the Crown Prince had already cast a net as tight as heaven and earth. Adrian Murong couldn't get far. Just as he was cornered, Camila Feng seized him. Come with me. She led him into a secret passage and told him, hide here for 3 days. When their guard outside loosens, find a way out on your own. He was about to speak, but she stopped him. Don't thank me. I'm just a legend. I'm saving you because I want you to take a message back to Adrian Murong. Your father's death has nothing to do with me. I didn't know about Arthur Feng's plan in advance. Don't come looking for me to settle accounts later. 3 days later, Adrian Murong escaped from eastern capital, returned to Westland, and raised an army to attack Liang Kingdom. A year later, western capital was breached. Emperor Julian Feng and his wives, concubines, and children were wintering at the Winter Palace in western capital. If they hadn't fled quickly enough, Adrian Murong would have wiped them all out in one sweep. That night, at Jade Rest Hall, Adrian Murong held a feast to reward the soldiers. A little drunk, he suddenly wanted to see the Camila dance. He had someone bring in palace maids who could dance. After a while, someone arrived. He narrowed his eyes. Well, would you look at that? Wasn't this the very woman who danced the Camila dance? Camila Feng herself? She didn't recognize him. Back in eastern capital, he'd been disguised, and he looked nothing like he did now. The funny thing was, she was actually pretending to be a palace maid, putting on a pitiful act. What was she up to? Fine then. Maybe he wouldn't expose her yet. He'd play along and let her keep acting.